So Aurelion Sol got a rework a few days ago. Despite that, he's already been proven to be a huge balance issue, and Riot has already seen fit to hotfix the champion down. Why is that? Why is Aurelion Sol so overpowered that compared to every rework, he's been hotfixed within a few days of the rework? Well, in order to talk about that, we're going to have to talk about his rework as a whole. Now, I'm going to try to keep this video as short as possible. You can put me on in the background, and I'll give you guys visual aids to what I'm talking about, but we're going to have to briefly go over his rework. Not super in-depth, but briefly, okay? So, Aurelion Sol, with his new rework, if you guys have played against it, that's fine. If you haven't played against it, that's fine. The general idea is he generates stacks of Stardust whenever he hits people with his abilities. I suppose that would be the general way to put it. So he has a sort of Nasus Q infinite stacking or Vigor AP infinite stacking, but instead he generates stacks of Stardust. Now, like many of these champions, like Vigor, like Nasus, he tends to do much better at the low ranks. How much better at the low ranks? Well, as of right now, post hotfix, and I'll go into his hotfix in a second, his win rate is 52% at all ranks, with nearly double the pick rate of the number 2, with a 44% ban rate. This is after the hotfix. Now, for those of you guys who need a reminder, all ranks generally means the low ranks. Although it combines all ranks, there's one challenger game played for every 500 to 600 silver games, 500 to 600 gold games. So low rank, just by process of how many games are played, will always mean the lower ranks. So at the all ranks, his pick rate and his win rate and his ban rate are just overwhelmingly overpowered. To compare this to some other champions with some, let's say, similar balance, if I look up Nasus has a 52% win rate. The thing is with Nasus, though, is he's got a much lower pick rate and a much lower ban rate. But you can see that Aurelion Sol is about in line at all ranks with these other infinite stacking champions. Now, the issue here is the massive pick rate, and second up, the issue is how much he falls off as you rank up. Now, let's go over what this hotfix did here. I want to just go over this real quick. His health per level was reduced, his AP ratio on his Q was reduced, his AP ratio on his E was reduced, and the amount of stacks he gets was also reduced. The issue here that Riot doesn't seem to realize, the lower ranks tend to not end games. The higher ranks tend to end, well, games. They tend to win. They tend to end them. So they tried to nerf his late game here by nerfing his health per level, AP ratio, stuff like that. They tried to nerf those, but they didn't hit the core issue. Now, what is the core issue of Aurelion Sol? Now, I'm going to go through his win rate here. Now, if we compare this to Nasus has, let's find this dude again. Let's find this dude again. He's 52%. As we go to Platinum, his win rate goes to 50%. As we go to, I'm going to go to Diamond 2 Plus because we're kind of still early in the patch. And yeah, see, we don't really have that many games here. In fact, it's hard to find him. But okay, so he's a very low pick rate, 49% at D2 Plus. Okay, so Nasus, he does fall off. We can see he definitely does fall off right here. We can agree with that. He falls off the higher rank you go. Now let's compare that to Asol, however, 52%. Now he does have 4 times the pick rate of Nasus, so keep that in mind. Once we go to Platinum, his win rate already drops to 49%, but his pick rate doesn't really fall off, and in fact, his ban rate goes up. So compared to Nasus, we can already see already at Platinum, he is doing monstrously better. Now, if we go to D2 Plus, here's what you'll see. He goes all the way down to a 46% win rate, maintaining that ban rate, maintaining that pick rate. With 12,000 games played, we can say that, yes, he falls off very hard the higher rank you go. So why is that? Why compared to champions like Nasus, why compared to champions like Vigor would he fall off so hard? We can see other champions like Syndra who do scale. These champions tend to still be high pick and decent win rates at the higher ranks, so why can't Asol? Well, the issue with that is with how his stacks operate. We need to go into how his stacks operate real quick right here. So the issue here is the more Stardust stacks he has, the more percent health damage his Q does. Now that's obviously all of you guys are saying, wait, what? He does have infinite stacking percent health damage. Percent health damage will do more damage as the game goes on. Against 1,000 health, he'll deal 100 damage with 10% true damage. Health damage. Against 2,000 health, he'll deal 200 damage, right? Everybody I'm hoping everyone can agree with me on this core concept here, correct? So the more health you have, the more damage percent health damage will do. He has infinite stacking percent health damage. So early in the game, he might do 1 to 2% health damage on his Q per second. Late in the game, he might do 10% health damage. Late in the game, he might do 20% health damage with his Q. The issue here, other infinite stacking champions tend to have infinite flat stacking. Nasus gets more flat damage on his Q. Viger gets more flat damage on his abilities. Cho'Gath gets more flat HP. Sion gets more flat HP. Even Heartsteel gets more flat HP. None of them stack percent health damage. This is a very silly thing for a champion to be stacking, okay? But it actually gets even sillier because then his black hole, his singularity, if you've not played against him, that's not a big deal. He puts down a black hole in the field, and if you're in the center and you have below 5 plus 2.6% of Starduck stacks, you are executed. You are just instantly murdered, right? So if you have 100 Starduck stacks, it will be 7.6% of your health. You're executed. If you have 200 Stardust stacks, it will be 10.2% of your health you're executed. As you can imagine, at the lower ranks, if games go on and on and on and they don't end and they keep going, the issue here is that between the percent health damage on his Q and the percent health execute on his singularity, that this champion starts scaling really hard. Now, to explain why this is such a dumb concept, I'm going to need to give you guys the idea of diminishing returns. Okay, now I'm gonna trust me on the math here, right? If you go from 100 to 103 damage, how much damage do you gain? 3% damage, right? Can you guys agree with that? If you go from 200 to 203 damage, how much damage do you gain? You gain, that's right, 1.5% damage. Despite the fact that Nasus scales indefinitely, despite the fact that Viger scales indefinitely, they're stacking flat amounts of damage. The amount of damage increase as a percent is going down over time. Now, they are still getting that flat damage, so they do scale very well, but the issue here with Aurelion Sol is because he's stacking these concepts, he actually experiences significantly less diminishing returns than other champions. Nasus going from hitting 700 with his Q to even going to hit 800 with his Q. Yeah, that's a lot of damage, but if you really think about it, let's say he hits you with his Q 3 times, right? If he gets 100 more scaling, that's 300 physical damage. 300 physical damage in the late game is actually not that much, right? Can we agree on that? Like 300 physical damage, that's like an 80 carry, half of an auto attack, right? So Nasus gets into the late game and realistically, like he can get 100, 200 more stacks on his Q, and you know, it's gonna hurt. Like obviously it's gonna do much better, but it's not gonna like fundamentally change the game, right? But Aurelion Sol going from executing you at 10% health to executing you at 15% health to, if you're in a bronze game, executing you at 20 to 25% health, starts being a bit silly. Aurelion Sol going from doing 10% health on his Q to late hyper in the game, he can do, Jesus, what would that be? I think like 15% health damage on his Q would probably be at the upper end, but that's per second. That's per second, 15% of your health. So that scales quite good. So what is the purpose of this video? This is why Aurelion Sol is having issues. Now, I understand that Riot wants to have the funny execute on his singularity. I understand that Riot wants to have the percent health damage on his Q so he can hurt tanks. But hear me out on this one, Riot. Hear me out on this one, Riot. This champion scales too well. This champion scales way too well. And as we've seen, as I've shown you, this is causing him issues. If we go all the way in the Masters Plus, it follows through with another 4,500 games. So this is like a decent amount of games to draw a correlation from, okay? Aurelion Sol goes from 52% to 46%. Nasus goes from 52% to 49%. Now, Nasus's pick rate does fall down considerably, yes. But my question, right, is don't you see the problem with a champion who arguably, your best argument for his balance is, oh, he's only as imbalanced as Nasus as you rank up? That's not a good argument, because Nasus is a champion that has never really fit into the game. He trashes the low ranks, and then the second you get good at the game, he stops really being able to do much. Aurelion Sol is a very cool champion that people want to play. So it is a very bad, in my opinion, it's a very bad idea to have him balanced in a way that he's only really going to be viable at the low ranks. Now, will this be true? Will he only be viable at the low ranks? I don't know. I hope not, but I don't know. Maybe he will be. And this video is just me kind of saying, like, hey, man, it's the problem of, dual percent health infinite scaling is making him scale too well. So make sure to like, make sure to comment, make sure to give me your thoughts on all this. And I hope you guys enjoy the video. Thank you to my Patreon members. You guys make the videos like this possible. Thank you to my YouTube members. You guys help me out immensely. Thank you all, and hope all of you have a great rest of your day. Goodbye, everyone.